Hi, I'm Maurice Sabak from Earthstone Ovens. Today we're gonna do some cooking together. We're gonna show you some of the dishes that you can do in the oven, starting from pizza and roasting chicken, making some bread, barbecuing, and we're gonna cover how to light the fire, what the embers should look like, what the fire should look like, and I think we'll have a good time together. And we're gonna start by taking our dough and taking the embers from the day before, and we'll start and get cooking. Last night I closed the door when it was done cooking. I take my door off. If you notice, I got a bed of embers on the floor. Actually, there's ashes now. Last night it was all embers. I'm going to brush all that to the side, take those ashes out, and get ready for a fresh fire again. Myself, I use a rod like this. It's aluminum. Push all my ashes to one side. Then I use a natural bristle brush, just like this. Okay, now I'm going to bring a little metallic bucket filled with a couple inches of water. We're going to put right in the oven. That way we just don't have a mess, and it'll extinguish all the left embers and the ashes. Okay, I have my bucket with 1.5 to 2 inches of water. I'm going to put this right in the middle of the oven. Then with a little shovel or a little dustpan, I'm going to take all these ashes and embers, put it right in a pan. We take most of the ashes out. We don't have to take everything out because we're going to start another fire, and we're going to have more ashes and embers anyway, so this is to get most of the stuff out of there. Now this could be very hot, so we always handle it very carefully, and we can dispose this outside in the yard or just let it cool down so you won't have any fire danger here. Okay, now I'm going to start my fire. If you notice, I still got some ashes on the floor, but that doesn't bother because we're going to start the fire on. The way to start the fire, the easy way, we use organic fire starters. They come in a little package like this. You have 24 little squares, and all you do is put this little square on the floor of the oven and put little pieces of wood, anything like this size, little pieces of 2x4, little branches. They don't have to be, you don't need any paper or anything. Just put this crisscross right over the fire starter. We use one of those little fire starters. They come very handy. Get the little starter going. Now this little square will burn about between 10 and 12 minutes, so you don't have to worry about getting the fire going. Okay, I'm going to add a couple of more pieces of wood. If you notice, these are just a little bit bigger, a couple of pieces of walnut. You notice the fire is really catching on now. It was only like 3 or 4 minutes. And I'm going to add those 2 pieces. When these get going pretty good, I'm going to put 2 larger pieces. Then we're ready to really get the oven to heat up. Okay, I'm going to add, the fire is going pretty good. I'm going to add a couple of more pieces of wood, but these are about the right size to really get the fire going. That's all actually you need. We don't want to overload the oven. The oven is pretty small, this model, and we don't want to put too much wood in, otherwise you're going to get more smoke than oxygen in the oven. Actually, this is the fire that you're going to have to do when you first buy an oven. We ask you to cure the oven for 6 days. That means 6 one-hour fires. Actually, the fires, what they look like, you get a fire going like this for about an hour. And when you get your hour, you close the door, let the fire completely burn out. The next day, you start a fire again. You'll be doing 6 of these fires until you get ready to cook in the oven, because we want to get all the moisture out of the oven, which is very important. Once the oven is dry, it's no problem. You can hurt it. Well, while our fire is going, it's going pretty good. I want to kind of say a few pointers about the type of wood, how to figure how much wood you're going to need and what kind of wood to use. This here, for example, I have some walnut, some olive wood, any dry fruit wood, hardwood would work. For example, oak, almond, peaches, apricot, any fruit trees that the wood is about 8 months old, been dried, it will work great. You don't want too large of pieces of wood. For example, for this type of oven, this is about the largest I would go because this is the Model 90. Now if you got a bigger oven, commercial oven, then you can go up to 4 inches in diameter. They're so big they'll burn anything. Now the trick is to have a fire going, like you notice, the fire goes up to the dome and mushrooms out. You have a good fire going. If you get a fire like this going in your oven in the middle, if you start from a cold oven, about an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and a half worth of fire like this, you'll be ready to cook because it'll bring up the temperature. Wood gives you a lot of BTUs. So faster you want the temperature to come up, the smaller pieces of wood you use. The smaller the pieces of wood, more flame you're going to get. And larger pieces will burn longer, give you a lot of ambers. So after a few tries, you kind of get an idea what you're going to do. For example, if you're going to barbecue, you're going to need ambers. If you're going to roast, you're going to need ambers. So towards the end, I like to use big pieces of wood to end up with a lot of ambers. If you're in a hurry, you want to bring it up to temperature real fast to bake some pizzas. Then you get a smaller piece at the beginning, really get the fire, a roaring fire going in. You can't hurt the oven. You don't want the flames to come out of the door. It's just too much. But like the fire like this is about perfect. We start always the fire towards the middle of the oven to heat up the oven symmetrically from the middle up. Then later on, we're going to show you how we move the fire according to what you're going to be cooking. Now, a little bit about the oven technique. A lot of people are kind of confused to understand how these ovens work. Actually, what we're doing, just picture the oven being a reservoir and you're filling up with water. More you fill the reservoir with water, more you're going to get back out of the reservoir. So this oven works with the same principle. We're storing the heat in a refractory material, which are very thick. Our ovens are very heavy. But once those refractory walls and dome get absorb the heat, they're going to give it back to you for a long time. Okay, towards the end of our firing, if you notice, we move our ambers a little bit towards the left. The reason we do that, we want to heat up the left side a little bit more because eventually we're going to push all our ambers to the right side, put the burning log right on top because we're getting ready to bake pizza. And our dome started turning white. The inside of the oven is no more soot on the walls. That means the temperature on the surface is between 700 and 800 degrees. So I'm going to move the fire to one side. I'm going to clean the deck, and we'll see how that's done the easy way. Then we're going to start to put a pizza in, bake a pizza. Then we're going to move the embers in the middle, do some barbecuing. We're going to roast the chicken, and we go down the line to see how we do different dishes. So I'm going to move the embers to one side. I'm moving all the embers and the fire to one side. I think this aluminum rod works very, very well to do this. You can do this in one shot. The fire is still burning. I move the embers. Now with my brush, again, I'm going to move all the big ashes to one side. Towards the fire, just like this. These brushes hold up pretty good unless you put it right in the fire. You know, if you put any embers, it's going to burn, but otherwise the heat doesn't harm the bristles. I'm going to put this back. Now I'm going to just mop the floor. There's two reasons to mop the floors. One is to take all the ashes out. Second is to cool the floor tiles, because the floor tiles right now where the embers were, they're about 1,000 degrees. That's going to burn the bottom of your pizza if you put a pizza right away where the fire was. So we're going to go over it with the wet mop or the wet towel, cool the tiles, clean the floors, wait 5 minutes, then we're ready to put the pizza in. I'm going to use the stem brush, wrap a towel around, because this towel can be washed. This will be perfect to wash the tiles, oven tiles, and also at the same time cool the tiles. Okay, we're gonna bake this vegetarian pizza. I'm gonna put it right in the oven by the door at first. Now, one thing with pizzas, they cook so fast, you have to keep an eye on a pizza and rotate it. The side of the fire is gonna bake a lot faster. If you notice, it's already proofing and swelling, perfect, it's taking shape. And a few more minutes, it's gonna be all baked and ready to come out. I'm turning the pizza to make sure that it's cooked even all around. This oven is naturally pretty hot and it's cooking pretty fast. But we're gonna have a pretty good pie. And every so often it's good to lift and check the bottom of the pie, make sure it's not burning, because the first pies, they're very tricky because the floor is still pretty hot until they even out. This pizza is done. Put some of my dressing on. We'll be talking about these recipes later. This is just for the first pizza. Okay, we're gonna do some barbecuing now. All I have to do, or after I got done making the pizzas, for example, I'm gonna bring the embers. They're on the right side of the oven, right on the floor of the oven. I'm gonna slip my grill right over so we can go ahead and put our meat product and barbecue it. If you have any logs burning, you just leave it on the right side. All you want is the embers on the floor of the oven, and the flames will actually barbecue the top at the same time, which makes it great, and it barbecues very fast. So I'm gonna bring the embers in the middle. Now the grill's right over the embers. I'm gonna wait 5 minutes, make sure the grill gets real hot to give some good marking on the meat. And also I'm gonna brush some olive oil when it gets real hot. Make sure that try to not get the meat to stick to the grill. And this will, again, barbecue very, very fast because it's very hot in the oven. The oven is almost at 600 degrees, and the embers right up below the meat is gonna do a very good job. Now I'm gonna load my grill. I'm just going to put a little olive oil here. Usually this helps so the meat doesn't stick to the grill. Got some steaks here, marinated steaks. Actually, it smells good already. And I have some chicken fillet right here. Can do that together, just like this. Push the grill back in again. And if you want to be fancy or give a little bit more flavor, what I usually do, I always save fruit cuttings like this. So what I do the last minute, put it right in the embers. And just before our meat is done, this is going to ignite and give a real good smoky flavor to the meat. Not too strong, just barely, but fruit wood gives a real good aroma. Now if these little pieces of wood I just put in, you see they start to smoke. You wait about 5 minutes, and first they'll smoke a little bit. You let them smoke. It'll give a real good flavor to your barbecuing again. And towards the end, we just light it, and the flames out of the wood will give you nice coloring to your meat product. Now this fire doesn't burn the meat or doesn't blacken because it's a very soft flame. Actually just gives some color because it doesn't last that long and it's in front of the meat. So you can push it back, or you can just bring right over if you want a real good coloring. This will, you'll see that's just, is going to come out just great. Now we're going to turn our meat once, get coloring on the other side. It's cooking from the bottom and from the top at the same time. About 2 more minutes and we'll be done. Okay, I'm sure it's done. First I'm going to take the chicken out because that gets done a little bit sooner. Actually, you can really smell it, and it's pretty juicy. What happens, they cook so fast, like this was actually barely 4 minutes, and the meat does not have time to dehydrate. On most of the barbecue, the fire comes from the bottom and all the moisture just goes up from the top. This, the oven is cooking from the bottom and the top and all the sides at one time. And the meat, yeah, this one is done too. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put right in a plate here. Just to get an idea. Now this, in 5 minutes, this will be just right. I mean, I like the meat rare like this, but don't forget, the meat is still cooking. So by the time you get ready, put it on the table and eat it, it'll be just right. If you know, as soon as you cut it, all the liquid just starts to come out of it. And in 5 minutes, this plate is going to be full of juice because the meat just didn't dehydrate. Didn't have time to do this. What gives a real good flavor. Okay, next. What we're going to do now, we're actually going to roast the chicken. I'm going to move the embers that were on the floor for barbecuing, or you'll have the embers in the middle when you have the fire going. I'm going to move that all around the oven walls. I'm going to clear the center of the oven. That's where we're going to put our chicken. And that way, that's how we roast in this oven. I'm going to go and just move the embers all around. Just divide the embers all around the walls. Because we're going to actually be using the heat to store it on a stone to cook our chicken. Now I'm going to get my brush again, just to move some of the ashes away. There you go, my oven is ready. I'm going to close the door for about 15 minutes. The reason we do that is we want to even up the temperature. The dome is very hot. We want to heat up the floor, the walls, even up the temperature in the oven. Then when we put our roasting item in, is going to get color from all the sides of the oven, the top, the bottom, the walls, everything will roast. So we don't need the rotisserie. You'll see the chicken or whatever you're roasting is going to be pretty even. I have a chicken here, 4 pounds. We're going to roast in the oven, naturally. Few little things I go over real quick. First, I put foil. Any kind of roasting pan, like this is cast iron. Any kind of roasting pan, cast iron, will work great. As long as the walls are not too high, because you get the heat from all the walls in this oven. So we don't want something with high walls. Something like this, similar, anything that doesn't burn works out great. The chicken, I like to roast the chicken on a vertical roaster. This works out great for 2 things. First, on this oven, the heat's going to come from all the walls, the dome. You don't have to rotate the chicken. Also, being vertical like this, all the fat will drain out of this chicken, will be in this little dish here below, but all the juice will stay into the chicken. This works out real good. If you want to do more chickens, you get a bigger roasting tray. You put, like in this oven, you could put 4 of them, as long as they're about 3-4 inches apart from each other. This is just one single sitting in the middle. If you notice, I always pull the skin right to the back like this. You can put a couple of toothpicks to hold it in place, but usually it'll stay there. In these ovens, the only thing you have to watch is the upper part of the chicken cooks sometimes a lot faster because the dome is here, is very hot, hotter than the floor. This part might get overcooked. So what I do is I just put a little foil umbrella right over it, just this part. The rest you'll see will turn golden. It comes out real good. Now, The embers that you put around the oven on the inside, they're going to give very faint smoke flavor. Works out great. Now you want to give a little bit more smoke flavor. A lot of people use, for example, we use alder chips. These are alder chips. They're from Northern California. The American Indians used to use this to smoke their salmon, their game, and it's has a very good aroma. It's not as strong like mesquite. All you have to do is wet the chips a little bit for 10-15 minutes, throw over the embers just before you put your chicken in, close the door, you get a real faint smoke flavor, which is very attractive, and you'll be roasting your chicken. So that works out real good. So now what I'm going to do, I have my door closed, I'm going to open the door, put the chicken right in the center of the oven, close the door. Usually a chicken like this, 45 minutes to an hour, it should be roasted. Again, like any other roasting, if you want to make sure it's done, you pierce the thigh over here, see if it's red juice running out of it is not done yet. If it's clear, your chicken is done. So this will do a real good job. What I do in this chicken, on a little dish below, I put crushed garlic, 6-7 cloves. I put it inside, slip the chicken right over it. All the fat going to drip right inside there. It's going to be boiling, and all the garlic aroma will go back into the chicken. But we'll talk about this again. Like I said, we're going to cover some of the recipes from A to Z, so we'll go over this stuff. So let me get the door open. Right in the middle. The oven should be anywhere from 450 to 500 degrees. It'll cool down as the chicken would roast, which will do a good job. But we'll keep an eye on it, see how it's doing. Close the door. Now if you want to put a little aroma, you wet those chips. Like I said, you just wet them, get a handful of them, throw in the embers. Maybe we'll probably even do this right away so you get an idea. Now I didn't soak this for 10 minutes, but it'll do the job, just to give you an idea how we work it out. I'll get these and I'll just throw it in over the embers. That's it. Now close my door, and the smoking will do your job just as slowly, just perfect. Just close the door. And I'll check it probably 45 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes, see how we're doing. Let's check the chicken here. That looks good. It's been about 45 minutes. I put it a little forward. That's what I was talking about. See, the top part of the chicken is kind of starting to kind of do it overdone. So I put this little hat on. That way the rest will get done just right. And we grab this on both ends. See, the coloring is even all around the chicken, just like it was on rotisserie. And if you notice, this little container is all full of fat, and it has a real good aroma because it's boiling and the garlic is inside. So everything is coming into the chicken, just sitting the inside with the good garlic flavor. And naturally we put rosemary and thyme. We'll cover that later. The chicken is done. Now the next step is going to be bread. So we got little tricks about bread baking. We're going to go through there and get an idea how the bread is done. We'll cover that up just in a few seconds. One more time, now we're going to make bread. We got done with roasting the chicken. We have embers all over against the walls of the oven. Or if you you fire up an oven just for bread, you have the embers right in the middle, same idea. But what we got to do, we got to take all these hot coals out of the oven, a safe way. So there's two ways we could do that. Take the embers out completely, which we're going to do with our metal bucket inside with water. Take the embers out, it's safe, no problem. Or you can push all the embers on one corner of the oven, put a brick in front of it to block the heat from those embers, and go ahead and put your bread on the floor. So first we're going to clean it, then we'll proceed seeing how we're going to clean up the floor. And now we're going to mop the floor. The reason we do this is two reasons. First, again, is to take the ashes out, but the main reason when we're doing bread, we want to mop it, is to cool the tiles, because the bread's going to sit there for 15 or 20 minutes, and if the tiles are too hot, the bottom is going to cook faster than the top. So we're going to cool the tiles. At the same time, we're going to put a lot of moisture in the oven. That's what you need when you're baking bread. To do a good job with bread, you need a lot of moisture in the oven, which you're going to put some later. But this will mainly, the main reason is to cool the tiles. So I'm going to wrap a towel around my broom again and cool the tiles. The reason we like to use towels is you can always wash them and start with a new tile all the time. Okay, we got our bread ready, our dough for the bread. I mean, this is just a couple of regular type bread, nothing special. We'll have some recipes later. My oven is clean, the floor is a lot of moisture, the tiles have been cooled down quite a bit. I'm gonna put those two breads in, and usually takes probably 15-20 minutes. We'll check it, and when they're done, we'll just pull them out of there. We'll have to check every so often, because if you have a large volume of bread, it's gonna take longer. If you have a focaccia type bread, about 3/4 inch thick, it's going to cook a lot faster. So I'm just going to make a couple of cuts in here to let the bread proof in the oven, because it's going to proof in the oven for 4 or 5 minutes, then the yeast will die. This one will go like this. See, I had done this one earlier, just the dough is pumping up and trying to swell. It's what this is going to do, is it's going to let the bread open up, because the crust that we're building here is holding the bread in. So this will open up, give some character, and I'm going to put it in the oven. You can put them on a peel, pieces of wood. I use those cake cardboard. I got quite a bit of flour in. This will slip right off, because you don't want to disturb those loaves, because they'll collapse real easily. So I'm going to put this in. Then this one. And what we do, you can put a pot of water inside to give some moisture, or you could do this. This will give you a lot of moisture. Spray in the dome. Okay. Okay, we're going to keep an eye on our bread. And like I said, probably 15 minutes, 12 minutes, you'll be done. Okay, let's check our bread. Looks pretty good. They're done all right. What I gotta do, let them cool off a little bit. Then it's all yours to eat it. Well, let's talk about pizza dough. The question always does come up, do you have a good recipe for pizza dough? I like to make pizza, but you know, who's gonna make the dough? I buy ready-made dough or ready-made pies. Actually, I think it's pretty easy. Once you get the hang of it and have a little procedure to go by, it's going to be very practical. And usually by using, we call that cold proofing the dough, which is we're using refrigerated water instead of using warm water. You know, you always see in recipe 115 degrees. We use cold water out of the refrigerator. Usually it's about 40 degrees. what we're doing, we're retarding the proofing process. And that makes it very practical because you could make your dough, put it in the refrigerator, 18 to 24 hours later, you could take it out and start to use it. If you want to keep it an extra day or 2 days, no problem. It'll proof in the refrigerator very slowly. Actually does a better job. A lot of the bakeries now, they all use the same system to make their doughs. So we're going to cover that, and then you can decide for yourself. Question always comes up, oh, I know when I go to Europe, I talk to people about, oh, this is a good pizza dough, and what you use, this is a family secret. But as far as I'm concerned, there isn't too much of a secret because the ingredients are so basic. Maybe the amount varies, but you know, you have to have water, you have to have flour, yeast, maybe a little of oil, the salt, sugar. I mean, you know, you can do too many fancy things to make your secret pizza dough recipe. So we're going to do ours. I think it's fun. A lot of the people always compliment this. It's pretty good, and I think it's pretty easy to make. So first, like I mentioned, we're using and this recipe, we're going to use 3 cups of cold water out of the refrigerator, 7 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of semolina. We're going to put sugar and salt, a little olive oil, and basically that's it. So what I usually do to make it easy, I'm going to put my sugar and salt and mix in the water so it'll be already mixed. Okay, the sugar, you can put more or less, but I always go for 1 wheelful teaspoon of sugar, 2 full teaspoons of salt. Now stir this, get it going kind of to dissolve in the water. Let it sit over here. So now I'm going to start with my flour. You notice I put the paddle in at first because to really mix the water and the flour at first, I don't want to use the hook. I want to really mix everything real good. So I'm going to go ahead and put 5 cups of flour. And again, this is not the end of the world, you know, sifted and unsifted full cup. I'll just kind of eyeball it. It's 3, 4, 5. I'm going to use 7 cups of flour. By the way, this is all-purpose flour. You can mix the all-purpose flour with high gluten flour, better for bread, but you know, if you use better for bread flour, it makes the pizza dough a little bit tougher, chewy, and most of the people like it kind of crumbly, and I think the all-purpose flour works real good. And to compensate for that, for this 7 cups of flour, we're going to put 1 cup of semolina. Semolina, again, is wheat flour, but this is coarser. And this, for my taste, this gives a robust taste to your dough, and it goes perfect with the wood-burning oven. And you could try it and see if you like it, use it. If you don't, then you just add an extra cup of flour. Okay, I got my 5 cups of flour, 1 cup of semolina. I'm going to put my yeast in, which again, because you're going to use the cold proofing method, I usually put there's 1.5 teaspoons. Now you could put 2 full teaspoons in this, but because we're going to proof in the refrigerator, cold proofing is going to take 18 to 24 hours. This amount of yeast is going to multiply. You know, slowly it's going to grow. It's going to be more homogenized. It's going to be all over your dough. So this will be pretty good. You can put more, but you'll see even in the refrigerator, things starts to pump up before you get ready to use it. So we put the yeast in. Now another thing I do, you don't have to do, but I was born and raised in Marseille. I'm very partial to thyme, and this thyme comes from Marseille, from my hometown. It's wild, and it gives a real good flavor to the dough. Matter of fact, when we do cooking demonstrations, we make a couple of pies made with this dough here, and when people get a bite, say, oh, this tastes real good. You don't have to actually put any topping on. The aroma is so good, there's a little flavor into it. So I always put like a handful, like a tablespoon in the dough. So this is already in. What I do is I bring this up and I just go dry a little bit, make sure that the semolina, the yeast, the flour, and thyme, it just kind of mixed already. That's good enough. Now I stir this one more time. This is ready to go, and I'm going to put my olive oil in too. Now this mixture is going to be pretty wet. And I put quarter cup of olive oil. This will go for a little bit. And I had a speed one, just stirred. It was slow, and I got the number 2 speed just for about 30 seconds. Make sure everything is real because it's wet, so it's mixing a lot better. If you make it kind of dry, you get little clumps of flour that didn't touch the moisture, and this way you make sure that everything is kind of mixed together. Now that's good enough. I'll bring this down. Now I'm going to change. Now I'm going to put my dough hook, because dough is going to be pretty tight, so it'll do a better job with your dough hook. I don't want to waste any of this good dough here. There you go. I got my dough hook on. I turn it on, clean my finger. So all I have to do roughly, we're going to put 2 more cups of flour. So I don't put all of the 2 cups. First I start with 1.5 cups. Then I'll save. I have to put maybe the other 1/2 cup or maybe more according to how the dough looks, and it's very easy. And usually it'll take about, you don't want to over mix dough. Usually 5 to 7 minutes will be perfect. If you mix dough, what's happening is getting hot as it's mixing, and yeast is starting to proof already. We don't want to do that, and we just want to get a nice dough that didn't work, because that's what's going to make the gluten going, but not overdoing it. So usually 5 to 7 minutes, we'll watch our dough just building up, and when it cleans the sides of the ball, it looks pretty elastic, barely sticky, we're doing good. So like I said, 5 to 7 minutes, we're going to have a good dough ball going, and we got to work kind of fast so it doesn't get too hot. Now we can see the dough still sticking in the bottom. It's still wet. So this kind of tells me that I got to add a little bit more flour. So what I do is I never put more than I need, but I just add it as needed to slow the speed down so we don't get flour all over the place. And then slowly the dough is going to build up around the hook. So I add another 1/4 cup or 1/2 cup of flour. Now look like it's going pretty good. Now it's trying to clean the sides of the ball. That means it's a pretty good consistency on a dough. You notice it's cleaning the side of the ball. And just the design, so you get developing 2 little legs on the side. That's a good indication the dough is just about there. So we go a few more, maybe another minute. And then we're ready with our dough. Okay, the dough is moved away from the wall. It's cleaned the ball out. And it's developing 2 little fingers just going around the ball, just clean the sides of the ball. It's not sticking to the ball anymore. Naturally, if it will dry, I'll do that, but we want to just barely, when it just starts to get away from the wall, because we don't want the dough too dry and we don't want it too sticky. We get this out of here. Okay, just about maybe a minute. You can tell already by the dough is real silky, soft, and it barely sticks. There's a lot of ways to do it, but basically the dough got to churn, got to press on it real hard away from you. And you do it when it's nice and elastic. This is perfect, but again, remember I said you got to work real fast. You don't want the yeast to start to proof. You want to stick this in the refrigerator as soon as possible. So what I do, I I weight my dough, and I make even balls, so we'll have the same amount of dough for our pizza. So usually with this recipe, you're going to make 8, 9 ounce dough balls. Most of the people always say, well, I have a real hard time making a round pizza shell, you know. And the trick is if you start with the perfect ball, perfect symmetrical ball at the beginning, you're going to end up with the round pizza. And you won't have to work at it. So what we do is usually you just work the dough, stretch a little bit like this. And I usually go, you can feel with your fingers, make a little sphere. See, just like this. Now this one is going to come out round. You can't help it. Okay, there's 2 ways. We'll put this in the refrigerator. Either you just get a tray like this, put a little bit of flour in. If you're going to do a lot of it, it'd be more practical to do this. This is not a stick pan, but I put a little flour, so we don't want the bottom to sweat because it's still, this is going to try to sweat. Put the doughs in here. Don't put them too close because they're going to proof in the refrigerator. And you just wrap this with saran wrap. Just like this, make sure it's sealed. You put this in the refrigerator. Now it's another way I do usually if I don't want to did many. This works great too. Now I cover these with flour, because otherwise they'll stick into the bag and it's hard to get them out of there. So a lot of flour. Okay, the next day we're ready to make some pizzas. So I got my dough balls out of the refrigerator. Remember, they kind of grow in the refrigerator slowly, but they get there. And when we're using a wood-fired oven, it's very important to get the dough out of the refrigerator. If you're using the cold proofing method, at least 15, 20 minutes, put on a table, let it sit there for 15, 20 minutes, take the dough out, make your pie, and let it sit another 15, 20 minutes before you put the topping on and then put it in the oven. The reason that's important, these ovens, they cook so fast, they're so hot, you're cooking with induction, you know, you're not just cooking with higher temperature. For example, even a commercial pizza oven, electric or gas, you set them at 600 degrees, you put a pie in like this, a pizza, it still takes 8, 10, 12 minutes to cook. In these ovens, it'll take 3 to 4 minutes to cook a pizza. So what happens, yeast dies after 125 degrees. I mean, the yeast is dead. So when you put it in the oven, you'll see the pie will proof a little bit. The yeast really is getting nice and hot developing, but it gets so hot so fast, the yeast is dead. So the reason we want the dough out of the refrigerator sooner is so the yeast starts to proof in the room temperature. We're going to make some pies here, and it's very easy. If you let the dough just proof in the refrigerator, take it out, let it sit a little bit. You take it out. See this, you got a disc already, so it's round. And because we made the round dough ball, they were spherical. Now they flatten out in the refrigerator. So this will be easy to work. I do it with my fingers. You can use a rolling pin, but this is going to be pretty automatic. And don't be afraid, put flour in it to make it round. So usually, now the real fanatics, they say that mechanical, if you use a mechanical method to open your pies, your dough doesn't work as good as your fingers. The reason is when you do it with your fingers, the little bubbles have time to travel here and there. With the rolling pin, you flatten everything out. So I don't think there's that much difference, but you want to be real traditional using a wood-burning oven. Pizza, you'll see, this is very easy. It opens up. With my hand, I feel the high spots. I flatten everything out. You could go this way, all the way, and have your pie already open, which is not too hard. So I turn around. Or you could do the right way. Most of the places you see the pizza makers, they put a lot of flour, they go like this. So what you're doing with those 2 fingers, you're squeezing the border, you're stretching the outer edge of your pie. And with this hand also you feel the high spots, you squeeze them down. So what you're doing, you're putting a little border in the end, and you're stretching the other part of the dough, the outside circle. So when you go like this, it'll just open up by itself because the middle is opening up, and now the edge is already open. Then you already got a pie. Now, to put a border, you could do like this. I like borders around the pies because they'll hold the cheese and the sauce in. If you make it flat, Europeans really like to just roll them out real flat, like flat bread, but everything runs out of it. But also this to make it more appetizing to see a nice little border around. But actually the center of this pie is real thin, very thin. But you know, it just opened up by itself. You don't have to really be a professional to do something like this. It came out pretty good. Now, another question that always comes up. You hear in a lot of places people say, well, you see people making demonstrations say, oh, use cornmeal on a peel, you put your pie on, you put your topping, and you go like this, it'll slip right off because you got a bunch of little ball bearings that roll on a pie, which works, nothing wrong with that. What we find out our wood burning ovens you make 3 or 4 pies, and if you put too much semolina, all these little ball bearings, they're going to end up on the floor of the oven, and the heat of the oven going to make those little balls real black because they're thicker than flour. And then after the second and third pie, you're going to have all these little black balls stuck in the bottom of the pie. So what I recommend doing, we always do, and most of the restaurants do, just use a little flour, because flour is so fine with the heat, it's going to burn. It's almost going to disappear. It's not going to, you won't see it anymore. You might have a little black hue on the floor, but you won't have all these little balls. See, this is about 12 inches. Eyeball, it came out perfect. Now, this pie is almost ready to get the topping on. Now, it's 2 ways you can do it. Now, you notice a lot of the pizzas when you make, you get big bubbles, you know. And what happens is the yeast just poofs and comes out in different spots. And the bubbles don't hurt anything, but aesthetically, but when they get real thin, the bubble going to burn, and you're going to have a burn spot because the real fine skin there is built up. So there's 2 ways you can prevent it. One, the easiest way, you get a fork and you go like this all around your pie, like you do a apple pie crust, you know, the pie crust. You go like this. So what you're doing is creating a bunch of little holes. So if it's a pocket there, the air is going to escape out of those little holes. They will do that trick. Or if you want to be real fancy, these are kind of expensive. They call these dough dockers. And a whole bunch of forks actually lined up together. You go like this. That's faster, and you got all your little holes in. Then you don't get as many bubbles on this thing. Actually, this is ready to, you can let it sit on for 10, 15 minutes, or put your topping on, put it in the oven. Don't forget, if you got enough flour, it'll move like this. Now, if you wait 20 minutes with the amount of flour I put in, it'll be hard to do this. But what I do to make that easy, it's another trick. When I put my pie in the oven, I have my topping on, because this idea is okay. If you have few things on it, it's okay. But if you dress up something real nice, take your time to make it aesthetically nice, and you go like this, everything moves, I guarantee, because the shaking is going to move. This pie is going to move other things forward too. So to play it safe, I go like this in the oven, see? This is guaranteed. I go right in the oven, just, and I got my pie off without anything falling off. We're going to do some different pizza toppings. We'll start with this one, which I think is very good. There's no tomato sauce. Actually, it's a vegetarian pizza, but it'll taste real good. And basically, all we have is a real thin layer of mozzarella cheese, a thin layer of caramelized onions, very little mozzarella cheese, topped with some feta cheese. We'll throw that in the oven, 3 minutes, and it's a white, plain-looking pizza, but when you get one bite to it, you're going to say, this is good. So first what we're going to do, we're going to chop our yellow onion, and enough of them, but like 1.5 onion, 1 onion, large one, you know, if it's a big one like this, enough for one pizza. Because when this is going to cook, caramelizing means you cook the onion so low with olive oil so slowly. I put some sugar in, but it'll almost melt. And it's not a real onion bite to it, but it's a very good aroma and taste. So we cut these And little pieces like this, and it's going to separate naturally. And you're going to have all little blades of yellow onion, and you cook them very slowly. I find out when you do these, you got to cook them very, very slowly. I mean, you want to melt the onion. You don't want to really burn it. And the coloring will come with little sugar we add into the oil and a slow cooking, and they have a little yellow golden hue to it. And that gives a very, very good aroma. I added olive oil, and I'm putting a little sugar in right now. Not too much, maybe a teaspoon for this much, for this one recipe here. That's enough. This is going to melt slowly. As the oil gets hot in temperature, the sugar going to start to caramelize. And also, when we're cooking the onions, slowly the onion's going to get the flavor and the coloring of the sugar. Now, as soon as my oil gets hot enough here, I'm going to put my onions in, trying to melt the sugar a little bit. Probably do this in 2 batches. Our caramelized onions are done. I just strained them after I took it out of the frying pan, and you'll see that they're golden and they're just real like sweet, they're caramelized. And this is what's going to go on a topping. Matter of fact, this is the topping. The onions, little mozzarella, little olive oil, feta cheese, and we're in business. I'm going to brush some olive oil, very low. Actually, this one, I'm putting just the olive oil all around because we don't have any tomato sauce. We're going to put some cheese, but this will give us a real nice coloring, little flavor in the edge. Putting my mozzarella cheese. Okay, we're going to put the caramelized onion now. We don't want to overload it, but you have to put enough to make sure it covers everything, because this is the real flavor of the pizza. Clean the act a little bit. I want the stuff to fall off the sides. This is perfect. Actually, 1.5 medium onion was enough to cover this pie. Then I put a little bit mozzarella again, just to hold them. This will do 2 things now. It's going to hold the onion together. It's going to protect the onion from the fire, because if you expose them too much, the onion is already cooked and there's not too much there, and it's going to burn the edges. So you want to kind of cover it up with cheese. So you put very little in the bottom, a little bit on top. This will melt right over it. We're going to have the feta cheese also. There you go. This is about enough. See, it's not overloaded, just enough. And we'll pop it in the oven again. This onion pizza looks good. If you notice this little border really pumped up, you know, there's a little border I made, so it holds everything in. If I didn't have a board, all this will just run all over the place. So now we're just gonna cut it. That's perfect. Bottom, solid, crispy, and delicious. Well, we're going to make a fig pizza. It might sound strange, a fig pizza, but when people eat it, their eyes light up and they say, this is real good. I would never think that figs will taste as good. Naturally, figs is a small part of the topping, but it gives a real underlying, real nice sweet flavor, and it's a perfect marriage with prosciutto. Either melons or figs, that's Mediterranean, and it's a perfect marriage. So we're going to make a fig pizza, and you'll see how it goes together, pretty easy to do. And again, there's not too many toppings on it, but it tastes real good. So we'll start first I always brush my pies with a little olive oil, and I have some crushed garlic in the bottom. I keep this in the refrigerator, fresh basil inside. And this will do two things. Olive oil will help for the coloring of the pie, and also will seal between your tomato sauce. And anytime you make a pizza, you put tomato sauce, it's water. And if you leave it on too long, the water's going to get into the dough, it's going to make it real soft. And you can never cook water and make it hard. So this will kind of seal the dough from the water, from the tomato sauce. So I just go, not too much, you don't want to drown it with oil, mainly the edges and a little bit in the center. Now you can use a wider brush, you go a lot faster, but we're doing this to play, to have fun, so we make it last longer. So basically it's what you do, just like painting your pie with a little olive oil. If you notice on this recipe, I put a cup of olive oil, which is not a lot for all these pies. And this will give flavor naturally, the garlic, the basil. And so I got my olive oil on, and I'm going to spread very little tomato sauce. And this one is not a cheese pizza, so usually just coloring. Just very little, just for coloring. We don't want to make it, we don't want to taste the real tomato sauce. Naturally, this is just about like this. Just a hint of tomato sauce. Again, you know, this is not a mushroom pizza or a pepperoni pizza. We don't want to put too much, just, I think, give a little flavor. It's done. And now we're going to put our mozzarella on top. Just the mozzarella works like, actually like a glue. It'll hold the pie together with the sauce. It'll melt. So we got that on. We got our figs. Actually just cut it like this in very small slices. Okay, you want kind of figs on the firm side. You don't want it too ripe, you know, because this is going to be cooking, so not too much. It's going to be covered with cheese. Just like this. Just cover them up. You don't want to put too much figs. People don't want to just taste the fig, just enough. People have a couple of chunks for each slice. Now, very little mozzarella again on top. Notice I'm not putting too much. I'm just holding things together. Maybe a little bit more. Okay, we're going to dab it with little goat cheese. Not too many large chunks. Again, this is going to give the flavor to the pizza. Now this pie is ready to go in the oven. Notice it's not too much of the cheese, just enough to get a little piece here and there. See all my little figs there? Check the bottom, perfect. Guarantee this is nice and crispy. I'm going to cover this pie with my prosciutto, and then afterwards I'm going to slice it, and I'm going to top each slice with arugula like this. And this will give a real good flavor. I mean, this Mediterranean, again, I think it's a very good combination. So we're going to do it this way. This kind of, I'll let it talking because I want to cool down a little bit. Because prosciutto just goes crazy when you put in heat. You know, the salt comes out, it gets real tough and doesn't taste as delicious as now. Now this is made to eat like that. It's aged, and you don't want to cook it, so you got to eat it raw. And when soon as this kind of, the big heat gets out of it, the pan took some of the heat away, it's going to be perfect. So I go ahead and cover my pie. I'll cut it. Now I'm putting these on. I mean, it looks good, but besides that, this will give a real good taste. Okay, now this is a fig pizza, and the only people going to be judging it, just have enough courage to take a bite. I guarantee you'll be sold on the idea. Just take one bite, and you're going to go back to the video and say, let's see how Maurice made that pizza, because it's easy and it tastes great. We're going to make a vegetable pizza. In order to do a good job on the vegetables, the oven cooks very, very fast. I always pre-cook my vegetables. Matter of fact, if I can, I always roast them in the oven first. Then we'll make a pizza with it, and they'll come out real, real tasty. We get going with vegetables here. Okay, we're going to stripe this. Now all you have to do, we're going to brush this with oil. I'm just going to do a few of them, so it's like this. That's it. These are perfect. Okay, and this goes in the oven. Again, it's the same fire that we have for baking a pizza, so it's no problem. Makes it very practical. You just keep the fire burning on the side and check your vegetables, churn them once, and after they're done, we're going to slice them and prepare a pizza. Okay, I'm sure the roast is done on those vegetables. They're done perfect. We're going to peel the bell peppers. The vegetables are done. Actually, if you're going to make more pizza than this and you're going to use it quite often, you could do this in a couple of runs. You know, do the peppers first, do the vegetables later, and it comes out perfect. What I do with the peppers, you can either put in a paper bag or in a plastic bag. You just dump them in, wait 5 minutes, and the skin will fall right off of it. And this is the vegetables that come out of the oven. Got the bell peppers, the zucchini, the eggplants. There's plenty here to do a few pizzas. You can do probably 3 pizzas with that, because we don't want to overload the pizza with topping. I never do. Just enough to get the flavor. Just enough cheese, just enough tomato sauce. You know, we don't want to overload the toppings on this pizza. So again, same basic procedure. Put a little olive oil on the outside. Again, this is for coloring and also to seal the dough from the tomato sauce, which is like water. I'm going to put my tomato sauce. And again, not too much, just enough to coat the bottom of the pie. Okay, now here I'm using smoked Gouda cheese. You could use any kind of cheese, but this Gouda cheese goes real good with the vegetables, and another little trick, that's a smoked Gouda cheese, so you really get a smoked flavor out of the oven, and it goes perfect with the wood, because it's hard to get a smoke aroma in a pizza because it's sitting on the floor of the oven. So with this, first it tastes real good and has a very, very good aroma. If you haven't tried it before, try it once. Again, you know, to see. Then you could use any other kind of cheese you want, but we don't put too much cheese in the bottom. Keep everything towards the middle. Now I'm going to arrange my bell peppers. Okay, now in about 3.5 minutes, the pie will be done. We'll put a little dressing on top and we'll serve it. that thing cooked in about 3 minutes tops. Fire just right. That's pretty attractive. Now we're going to put a little sauce on it. This is a yogurt sauce, like just again, it's a little salt, a little garlic, and just non-fat yogurt. But this is a perfect marriage for this vegetable pizza. I try a bunch of other toppings. This works out real good, so I stick with this. But again, you know, you could try it once and see. And actually, if you got a steady hand, you can make a nice design. Matter of fact, if you do a few of them, you can get one of those squeeze tubes like they use for pastry to put chocolate on desserts, and you can make a real nice swirl in it and all that stuff. Now I'm using just a spoon. After all, we're using wood-burning ovens, nothing high-tech around here. So, but either way, it's going to taste good. We don't want to overload it, but this gives a nice, happy color. That's it. Let it sit for like half a minute. We'll cut it, and it's ready to go. Bon appetit. Roasting a chicken. This is, again, easy dish to do in a wood-fired oven because you don't have to tend the oven. You prepare your chicken, keep it in the refrigerator all ready to go, all dressed. And when you get ready to cook, you got to plan. Well, this is a 4-pound chicken, so you got to plan 45 minutes to an hour to roast the chicken. So what I do first, I always, like anything else, I wash my chicken with cold water inside out. Then with paper towels, I'll dry it all up. And it's nice and clean now. And I take most of the external moisture out, because what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put first, I like to put lemon juice on it, you know. So I just squeeze a lemon all around. Whatever it sticks to, it'll stick. Quite a bit inside of it. Okay, I got my lemon in. And now what I'm going to do is, after the lemon, I'm going to put olive oil. I don't use the brush. I just get on my hand a little bit, put a little bit of olive oil. This is the olive oil with garlic and basil. It's good. It'll give out a good flavor. I'm going to loosen the skin all around the body, the upper part, because I'm going to make a little stuffing with butter and the crushed garlic and salt, pepper, rosemary, and thyme. Again, the rosemary, thyme is all Mediterranean, but it gives a real good flavor. So now I'm going to put salt and pepper. A lot of stuff going to fall off if you put enough of sticks there on the skin to give real good flavor. Okay, I'm going to put my thyme on. Again, just like pepper. Put some in a cavity. This one is cooking. This thyme and rosemary are going to give real good flavor. What I'm going to do now, what I have here is like a couple of tablespoons of butter. I have some crushed rosemary, some thyme, and I have some garlic. I just squeeze some garlic in, see with a little press. Usually I put a big sprig of fresh rosemary inside the chicken, and I usually cut the rosemary with a knife, little pieces, they mix with it, but here I just crushed it, so it'll do the same thing. Now I'll put like a branch like this, because this is pretty strong inside. And if you have fresh thyme, you can put fresh thyme in it too. And then I'm going to get this paste and put it right between the skin and the flesh on the upper portion, because the chicken going to be sitting up, so we want all this to just run down between the skin and the flesh all the way down and give this real good taste to it. You don't have to go all the way in the bottom, because automatically it's going to run down. Nice. Well, we're going to put our chicken. First, what we do, I crush some garlic cloves with the skin and everything in, because you're not going to eat it, just for flavor. Just go like this. Just fill this bottom, all leftover small pieces of garlic you have, just Just smash them, put it here. What's going to happen, all this fat going to drip inside the dish here is going to actually boil because the oven is so hot, the floor is 500 degrees. So, and all this, the oil, the butter, everything going to be boiling in here, all the aroma goes right back in the chicken because the chicken is sitting right on top of it. Get my chicken, just slip it right over. See, nice. Then you get the skin, pull it over, because this, you're going to protect the inside. Put the wings like this so you don't want the wings to be out because that's otherwise going to burn. So this will hold in place just like this. So this is going right in the oven just like this and towards the back. And then you just close the door, check the time, and come back 45 minutes, check it, maybe 1 hour. The chicken will be done, and it'll taste real good. That looks good. It's been about 45 minutes. I put the little foil, that's what I was talking about. See, the top part of the chicken is kind of starting to kind of do it overdone, so I put this little hat on. That way the rest will get done just right. See, the coloring is even all around the chicken, just like it was on rotisserie. Right now I'm going to check, see if the chicken is done. Like I mentioned, usually that's one way you can tell in all roasting chicken, see if they're done. We're piercing the thigh here and see if the liquid that comes out of there is clear. There's no more red liquid mixed with the juice. That means that the chicken is cooked inside out. Okay, potato salad. This comes out real good. The oven does a lot for this again, and this is great room temperature. You're doing a suckling pig or a leg of lamb. You could do this before with the fire burning just like a pizza fire. The fire's burning on the side pretty strong. We're gonna cut these potatoes, unless you have all same little round ones, which is better. When I get potatoes out of the yard, I always pick the little ones about the same. You don't have to cut them. This would have been the right size, but they didn't have that many this size. So we cut them, we just toast them with olive oil, put on a pan like this, any kind of cast iron, copper pan to go in the oven, as long as it's non-combustible. You'll do great. You just cook them until it gets real soft. You get a fork, you taste it, test it, I mean. And then let it cool down to room temperature. We're gonna make a little sauce, toss the whole thing, and it's ready to go. So what I do, this is a pretty good size. I'm gonna try to cut them all about the same size. So this will go in, but this is kind of big, so I cut this one in half. See, just like this, so they'll cook all about the same time. We're gonna toast these potatoes with a little of olive oil. Spill all around. We're gonna toss them, the rest will stay in the bottom anyway, so. Okay, this is gonna go right here. And right in the oven. Like I mentioned before, this fire is going to be pretty hot, just like a real strong pizza fire, because you want to cook this pretty fast. While we're waiting for our potatoes to be done in the oven, I can hear them sing there. It's very hot. They're actually frying and roasting, like I mentioned before. We're going to prepare a little sauce. You can do your own variation of the sauce, but basically I have some lemon juice, a little olive oil, a little vinegar right here in the sauce. That should be enough for all these potatoes. I'm going to chop some of the green onions, put them inside, parsley and basil, then salt and pepper, and a little crushed garlic. And I'll chop my green onions, my parsley, and the basil. Okay, now the little crushed pepper like this, just grind the pepper in real good. Salt. You mix all this together. Now if you want to, you can put, I usually put black olives. I don't have any here, but you can toss some black olives on the last minute. That gives, goes real good with the green and black olives and roasted potatoes. It'd be a very good combination. So now we're waiting for our potatoes to be done. Probably about 15, 20 minutes. Gonna stir them a little bit. And then we'll throw in a nice ball and throw the sauce in. It's ready to serve. Okay, I think we got them. The thing is hot, very hot. So I'm just checking it, make sure the fork just goes right in. You don't want to overcook them, but you can tell these are all done. Smells very, very good. I mean, the aroma with the potatoes, now the dressing right on it, the garlic and the basil. All we're missing actually is the olives. And this is a good salad. I guarantee you got to plant a lot of potatoes because people, they get few of them, the next you know they ask for seconds. So be sure you got enough backup potatoes to please everybody. There you go. I'm going to rub this turkey with olive oil, salt, pepper, all around in the cavity. This most of it will drip down, but this will help for flavor first, and also oil always gives a real good coloring to your cooking product. And after the oil has been put on the back also, under the wings, whatever, you know, just cover the whole surface. Well, good. I'm going to salt this. Just on the skin, again, it'll give some flavor and coloring. Ground some black pepper. And also I'm going to put some thyme. I always put very little all around. Some in the cavities. Rub everything real good. Going to squeeze some lemon all over. All over real good like this, and then rub it in real good all over. Now I'm going to put my butter patties right under the skin. I just flatten them out. I already loosened the skin, so what this is going to do, with the heat, the butter going to melt. Got salt, pepper inside in a little time. It's going to melt. It's going to go all over under the skin and really flavor the meat. And all you have to do is just flatten them out, put under the skin. The whole proportion is enough because the bottom is going to get the butter anyway, so the fat's going to just wash down, and just you have enough staying there to just give you the flavor. Now in a cavity, I'll just put some herbs inside. This is oregano. This gives a real good flavor, not too much because it's dry. Put that and that's it. I don't put any stuffing because, like I mentioned before, it just takes too long to cook. So this will come out pretty good. But you could try all different ways of doing it. This is very basic. Now my turkey is all dressed, ready to go. I'm going to line this roasting pan. If you notice, this is a very shallow roasting pan. The shallower the better. You just want enough to hold the liquid in. You don't want to have a barricade against the heat because the heat comes from the wall. So we're going to put a bed of vegetables over here. Also, another thing I did, I roll extra aluminum foil on both sides, matter of fact, on all four sides. I'm gonna put the turkey in, take it out in 45 minutes when it has a nice coloring, and I'm gonna seal the whole thing and push it back in the oven again. So we're gonna line this roasting pan with just all different kind of vegetables. Here I have carrots, celery. I'm just gonna line these up like this. Just a little mixture. This is gonna give some flavor, but the main idea I wanna do this is to keep the liquid out of the turkey. You know, most of the time at Thanksgiving you get the turkey, the bottom of the roasting pan, I got an inch of fat and water and juices, and the bottom part's real soggy. So I want to keep it up so it'll have a nice, like almost real good roasting flavor, and a little barbecuing also because you got so much heat inside. So here I have some leek, and I have some carrots, celery, anything goes in, you know. I'm gonna put half a cup of wine in the bottom. Again, that's for flavor. Half a cup is good, a cup would be better. To give real good flavor, I use all the chips a lot because it's a very light aroma. It's not heavy like mesquite. And so I'm gonna throw these embers on the chips right on the embers. Because they're wet, they're gonna smoke first before they ignite. So actually when I close the door, not even gonna burn. It's gonna give you a real nice light smoke flavor. Now I'm ready actually to slip my turkey in, like I said, for 45 minutes, because we want to leave it exposed for 45 minutes. This is going to get a real good coloring. The heat is coming from everywhere. Then after 45 minutes, we don't want to dry it up, so we're going to seal the turkey in foil and put it back in. Now this is about 16-pound turkey. If you get a 20-pound or maybe 22 pounds, the only problem with turkey is the chest is pretty tall, and we have about 9.5 inches clearance on this model of oven. So I had bigger turkey, so what I usually do, put my hand in and press this down a little bit, just enough. It goes inside the oven. Once you're inside, you got a lot of room in the oven. So I'm just gonna push my turkey in. Right in the middle. Then we're closing the door. In 45 minutes, I'm gonna check it, take it out, reseal it, and put it back in the oven, and then we'll see how long it's gonna take to cook. It's been about 45 minutes, and we're gonna check our turkey. I'm sure it's nice and golden. We're gonna take it out. Like I mentioned before, we're gonna seal it completely, put it back in the oven, and finish our roasting. Now it's nice golden color. If the oven is too hot, this oven, our temperature gauge shows about 500 degrees in the dome. It'll be about 450 in the bottom. If you notice this is getting overcooked, naturally you can put a piece of foil like we did before for the next 15, 20 minutes so it doesn't cook as fast as faster than the bottom. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna unfold the foil. If you notice, I had this wrapped the opposite direction, so it'll just unfold real easy. The same thing from the sides, because we want to seal our turkey completely so we'll have a nice moist turkey. Now this is going back in the oven again. This turkey was 16 pounds, been in the oven for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and now it's perfect. And we're gonna take it out, see what it looks like. hot. She kept a nice coloring. Smells real good. We got quite a bit of liquid underneath, but the vegetables still holding the turkey up. If you notice, I didn't tie the legs together. Usually you go like this because we want the heat to go inside. If you tie them like this, it'd be very hard to cook the inside part. This is the part you want to be sure it's cooked. The breast is done because it's on top, and it came out just perfect. All you got to do, let it cool down a little bit, let it sit for a few minutes, start to carve it or transfer it to a serving plate, and you got a delicious turkey. And this will make, tomorrow, next day, will make delicious turkey sandwiches. Now we're going to prepare a salmon fillet. Naturally, there's a lot of ways you can prepare fish or salmon. You can either get salmon steaks and do right on a barbecue. It comes out perfect. You can do a whole salmon, steam it first, and just put it in the oven. Just burn the skin out and peel the skin and serve it whole. Or you can do this, a smaller portion just like this. Today we're going to roast the salmon fillet. What I'm going to do first is, again, when we do roasting, I like to keep my cooking product off the floor of the roasting pan. In order to do that, again, I'm going to put different cuts of vegetables in the bottom, put the salmon on top, put my dressing on, and just put it in the oven, expose, in probably 15-20 minutes, you have a perfect salmon fillet. So first, I'm going to make my bed. All the vegetables here, I have some celery and carrots and leek. And just lay them up just like this. Just to support it. This is fennel. There's a very good aroma. It goes very good with fish. And we'll make a little bed. We're going to put the salmon right over it. What I'm going to do now, we put some a little olive oil. You don't need much because we're just going to brush this. So a little mustard. Okay, a little salt. A little pepper. Lemon. Quite a bit because fish and lemon just a perfect marriage. Another thing I do is, this is Pernod, you can use, this is Ricard, you can use Pernod, but anybody from Marseille, when you're cooking fish, you gotta have this in it. You drink while you're eating it, naturally, but also, we always use, even in bouillabaisse or anything like that, we use Ricard, which is pastis, to marinate the fish, and this will kind of give a real, naturally it has the aroma of fennel, this will give a real good aroma to the fish. Naturally, another thing goes with it all the time, which I always use, I mentioned it before, is the thyme. This comes from Marseille, and this, when you smell the Ricard, you smell the thyme, you think you're in a port in Marseille, sitting in one of those sidewalk restaurants having fresh fish from the Mediterranean Sea, and it's the closest thing you can get to it. So I got this mix, and I'm going to take my brush and just put quite a bit of them, just soak right into the fish. Put very little wine, and this one you got to be careful because it's so shallow, it might spill, but you want to get some moisture, you can put water. Naturally, the alcohol is going to evaporate, everybody knows that, so we're just going to get white wine, pastis, all this goes perfect with fish. So now what we're going to do, we're going to move the embers on the side like we did before and put this in the oven, close the door, and about 15-20 minutes we'll check it. It should be done, and they'll come out perfect. Okay, I'm going to check in about 15 minutes. We're going to prepare a little dressing for our salmon. Myself, when I'm eating fish, I just like a good squeeze of lemon juice, and that's it, you know. But again, when you're going to serve it cold, it'd be nice to have a little dressing that goes with it and a little sauce. This is a cucumber dill sauce, and I think it goes real good. Mostly when everything is cold, it's nice and refreshing. And it's pretty easy to make. We have 2 tablespoons of sour cream, 1 tablespoon of mayonnaise, a little salt, pepper, lemon juice, and chopped fresh dill. So it's very easy to do. I'm going to put all this stuff in. Now this is grated pickling cucumbers. You don't want too many seeds, and the fresher the cucumber, better the sauce is going to taste. So this in here. So we just mix this. A little salt and a little pepper. You know, actually if you use white pepper it'd be better, but here I have just black pepper is good enough. And naturally the lemon juice. And just before the end, I'm going to chop my fresh dill. This is from the yard. It's just aroma is just perfect. And dill, like fennel, goes perfect with fish. We already have our Ricard as a marinade for the fish. You get a little bit of that, now you're going to get some out of the sauce. It's just going to be perfect. Oh, you can smell it. Naturally, you can't smell it. Too bad, I'm sorry, but I can smell it. And it's not because I prepared this, I'm going to say it's good, but it is. It smells good. If it tastes half as good as it smells, it's done. Well, this is ready to go. I mean, we got everything we need here. We got the fish, the sauce, good bread, and naturally a nice glass of Ricard. This is what goes with fish in France. Bon appétit, messieurs, dames. Well, this is it. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you'll be trying some of those ideas and recipes. That will make me very happy. Meanwhile, bon appétit, merci et au revoir.